Hey guys, special episode today. I know you're expecting the mailbag. That will be coming tomorrow, I promise. But in light of that, I do have Ashley Mann here wrapping up WrestleMania week. This is our final discussion about WrestleMania with Ashley. I know you've been asking about her thoughts and opinions. Well, here they are with Ashley and I discussing WrestleMania, Monday Night Raw, of course, looking ahead to SmackDown on Friday and beyond into WrestleMania Backlash and the rest of the year and speculation and everything else. So this is a really fun conversation, as it always is with Ashley, who's been a part of this show for quite some time now. So let's get it all started right after this. UK, uniquely created sportswear. Yes, you heard right. Why fit in when you were born to stand out? Shop with them at unique-creations.com. That's unique-creations, Kreations.com. And check out their Facebook page so you won't miss out on what's next with Leandra, St. Patrick, and Unique Creations. Leandra and Leandre, the owners of Uniquely Created, what a duo mother-son taking over the gymwear industry as they fight against all odds, kicking down doors that have been blocked while still keeping their trust and faith in God. This duo seems to be unstoppable. Please don't sleep on these up-and-rising entrepreneur stars. Something unique is happening in Eglin, Illinois, as they partnered up with some great ambassadors. ONE Fitness Gym, Marcus Banner, Diamond Duke, Coach Shannon, and his awesome trainers and fighters, as they show you exactly what being unique really means. They have created clothing for every boy, girl, women, and men. They made it a family affair. Again, check out Unique-Creations. That's unique-Kreations.com. That's their website, and you can follow them there on their social media platform. Something unique is surely happening. So check out unique-creations.com.
Welcome to the WWE Podcast, your number one source for the latest in WWE news and straightforward analysis. Are you ready to get this thing going?
Give me a hell yeah! I said give me a hell yeah!
Then let's get this show started right now.
Alrighty, well, welcome to your special edition of the WWE Podcast. And I say special edition because normally this is the mailbag dropped on a Wednesday night, but given it's WrestleMania week, given that we haven't heard from some of our co-hosts on their thoughts and opinions, and bringing out new thoughts and opinions on my end as well, I had to bring her on. I had to bring Ashley on the show because I know some of you have been asking when she's coming back and what her opinions are. Well, this is a full podcast for you. Of course, nearly 2 hours of Ashley and myself discussing WrestleMania, Monday Night Raw, where WWE is going. So, yes, it is generally the same content we've been producing the last several days because it's WrestleMania, but with a different voice, a different perspective. So I don't want you to think this is duplicate content, because while you hear some of the same things from me, I did make a concerted effort to try to not repeat myself. You guys have heard me the last 4 days talk about WrestleMania. So I did make that effort. I didn't succeed on all fronts, but Ashley is really what this podcast is about, because I want my co-hosts to have a voice and be able to come on here and let you know what they thought about WrestleMania, and as we move out of WrestleMania season, where WWE could be going with certain storylines. So that's the purpose of this show. I don't want you to think I forgot about the mailbag. I didn't. It is still on my list of things to do tomorrow. I'll be dropping a mailbag episode probably around midday, early afternoon at the latest tomorrow. I did not forget. It's just going to be a little bit later than normal, probably by about 12 hours or so, because of I do not want to be up till 3 a.m. this morning to do a show, and I wouldn't make it anyway. I'd fall asleep on my computer. So it's still coming. The mailbag is coming, and starting next week is where things will return to normal, where we'll have a nostalgia. We haven't done a real nostalgia episode in quite a while, so that will be coming starting next week. Sunday, to me, resets everything. I get a few days off personally from the show, which is, my voice needs it, my brain needs it after 6-7 days straight of recording and doing multiple shows. So just want to let you know where things are at. But thank you anyway for making us a success, for being there for us and telling a friend about the podcast, because that's how we're growing. That's how we're growing, is by you sharing our podcast on your social media and telling a friend, right? I mean, that's what this is about. We're not gonna advertise on TV. It's really word of mouth, and that's really how we're growing. And of course, all the great co-hosts that we have. So certainly, I can't even come close to taking all the credit. It's I'm just a piece of the puzzle, as they say. So, all right. Well, guys, if you want an ad-free experience, you don't like the ads and that kind of stuff, head on over to patreon.com/WWE podcast. Get yourself an ad-free experience for $1 a month. You get the entire library ad-free, shout out on the show. You can even, guys, get this. If you go into the pay-per-view level tier or higher, you get a free podcast mug. Yeah, we have that as part of our benefits now on Patreon. If you are a member for the pay-per-view level or Hall of Fame level on our show, on Patreon, of course, for 3 months or more, you get a WWE podcast mug. So how about that? Yeah, we're starting to give away merchandise now. So, but it's a real thing. I'm not just BSing you on that. That's real. So anyway, guys, let's get into it. Let's get Ashley on the show here. I hope everyone's having a great evening or morning, whatever time of day it is for you. And again, tomorrow I'll be dropping the mailbag show somewhere around midday, Eastern Standard Time anyway. So whatever that means for your time zone, that's what I'm going to be doing. That's enough of me. Okay, everybody. Thanks again. As always, enjoy. I'll talk to you next time. All right, guys. Well, it would not be WrestleMania week, or at least being able to close it out, without hearing from Ashley. Ashley Mann is back here, and we normally don't record on Wednesdays. I think this might be the first time ever we've recorded together on a Wednesday evening. Typically, this is the mailbag night, and I'll probably get a day late on that. I don't have the ability or energy in my brain to do a mailbag tonight, guys, so I'll do that tomorrow. But Ashley is here to talk about WrestleMania, her thoughts on WrestleMania, her thoughts on Monday Night Raw, the big Charlotte return, the big promo she had, Roman Reigns, of course, Drew McIntyre earning another championship opportunity at, we are only calling it Backlash here, guys. And Ashley, it's so great to have you back here. Could not have WrestleMania week and really the WrestleMania hangover now without your opinion. So welcome to the show.
No, thank you so much for having me, Matt. Like I mentioned to you before we started recording here, I'm sure you're pretty wiped out, to say the least, from this past week or so, and especially talk about WrestleMania and all that. So I'm just super happy and stoked that you squeezed me in here, and I'm just ready to kind of cover everything with you. I'm excited to talk about WrestleMania with you. I've already listened to the majority of your shows and pretty much have a good idea of what your opinion is, but I'm still excited to kind of push your buttons maybe on a few things, and especially with the Fiend, Randy Orton, and just kind of dive into that as one of the things. But I'm just super happy to be here, so thanks again for having me.
Absolutely. And, obviously you've heard some of my shows. The listeners have heard a lot of my opinions. So my promise is to everybody, as I'll try not to just repeat myself of the things I've already said, or at least maybe say it a different way, or of course, having a different person on, different perspective, different brain, probably smarter than mine, will hopefully jolt me into thinking about different things. And I just want to, obviously say that up front, of course, that I'm going to try not to just rehash, and it'll be good to hear your opinion. So this is really mostly about hearing from you. So let's start out with Mania, and I'm going to just toss it to you, and whatever you want to talk about first, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Well, I think we'll obviously just logically start with WrestleMania Night 1. To me, if I had to choose, Night 1 would have been the better of both nights. And I guess before I proceed, I'm totally a fan of splitting WrestleMania into 2 nights. I hope they somehow are able to work that out going forward. I'm not sure, and I think you may have mentioned it as well. They already have, I think it was April 3rd booked for next year. I don't know if that was a solid date for sure for WrestleMania next year in Dallas. But I hope they are able to at least break it down to 2 more nights, because I think the 2 3.5-hour shows really just give it more of a sense of urgency and just more of an enjoyment, because you're not sitting there knowing you still have 4 more hours left of the show. Or if, like, for instance, for me, the Braun Strowman and Shane match did not do anything for me at all. So I think it kind of just, it allows you to get more involved and just more engaged in the matches themselves when you know you don't have 4 more hours left to go, and especially with the weather conditions this year. So I think they were really dealt an interesting hand this year, and I think all in all, I listened to your show earlier with Mary, and I think she gave it a B minus, I believe, a B minus. And before she had even said her letter grade, my immediate thought was a B plus, because I think the combination of both shows, just the feeling of it didn't feel like your typical WrestleMania, but once you started the show, at least for me personally, you kind of got that excitement back. It's like, man, like this is it, and seeing an actual stage and just the arena and the people there, just it really does make a huge difference. So I for no reason anything else, that I would just give it a B plus. But from night one, for me, no question, it was the main event. Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks stole the show. Like you, I don't think the story was, it was a strong story, but it wasn't as emotionally involved, I think, as we could have been, at least maybe on the Sasha side. I think it was sped up a little bit, but man, did they tell a story in the ring. And what got me hooked, this is just the simplest thing, and this is maybe a strong reach, but hear me out. When they started the match, Sasha and Bianca, seeing the emotion in Bianca's face, her almost in tears right as the bell rang, and just the fans just clapping for them right before the match even started, it kind of gave me a flashback to WrestleMania 18 with The Rock and Hogan. Just that electricity and that excitement in the air. And granted, of course, it's two polar opposites when you put them side by side, but in a way they did have a lot of similarities there. So I think it just goes to show you that if WWE invests time and story into a match, that emotion is just naturally going to come out. So that match, I actually went back and rewatched it twice, that match in itself. And that hair whip that Bianca gave Sasha, boy, I cringed when she made contact. I tell you, I've never heard a whip that loud. And you could see the welt and her bleeding almost immediately. So much credit and kudos to those two ladies. And I'm just so happy for the both of them and I'm happy for Sasha as well, that she finally got, I guess, her WrestleMania moment, even though she did lose. But I feel like this year really solidified Sasha as a star, and that she could really hold her own. And I hope going forward, I'm not sure how they're going to do it, but I hope they're able to maybe transition her maybe to Raw, just because SmackDown is so loaded right now, and Raw needs more depth in the women's division. And I think Sasha now has that star power to kind of help the Raw brand out. I know we have Charlotte back, so we'll get into that in a little bit here, but all in all, WrestleMania Night 1 for me was the winner. The main event was the match of the night. And just seeing the people there back as well was just a huge plus. And that Drew and Bobby Lashley match to start off the show, just seeing the emotion in Drew's face, like, it was just, not for nothing, it was just a good feel-good moment, I think.
It was, yes, and that is what a good way to kind of classify the night one experience. It was emotional from a lot of different levels. I mean, again, the rain delay was hilarious, only because, I mentioned this before, but seeing the announcers in ponchos was kind of...
Samoa Joe in a poncho.
Yeah.
Who knew you needed to see that, right? It's so great.
I don't know if you saw this meme going around. I might have already said it on my show. I've done so many shows I don't remember. But somebody had put it on Twitter that was the punishment from God, from... the revenge of God, from when Vince took him out in the tag team match with him and Shawn Michaels back in 2006. That
yes,
God was punishing Vince.
God.
Yeah. So
yes.
That was, yeah. But yeah, emotional is a great way to put it. Kevin Owens, I know he was on night 2, but he was the same way. You could see visually how pumped up he was to be in front of fans. I think that embrace and connection that fans have with the stars is something that you don't see in any other sport. And it is more than ever, I think, most out of any sport, the most important to have fans for a pro wrestling production. It's without it, you take the soul out of wrestling. And for at least 1 or 2 nights now, the fans were back. Now we're back to the Thunderdome, and yes, it's in a slightly different location, and they're not touring back yet. But at least for a couple of nights, it was, you could take a breath even in a partially filled building, and it was really great to see. But it's funny, the hair whip, I had thought that it was a sound effect that they pumped in because it was so well done and so loud. I'm like, because they've been really sound effect happy with Braun Strowman's train, going choo-choo.
Wait, the train isn't real, Matt?
What's that?
You said the train isn't real?
It took me a while to figure out because it was so well done. And Braun Strowman, looks like a train, and so, don't get me started.
The kick starting with the foot, I think, is what starts the train motion.
Oh my! that is as cartoon as things get. I mean, I don't want to.
I know.
I can't even stand that. But I actually
between that and the birds from Matt Riddle's when he kicks off his sandals.
Yeah, the birds now.
Gosh,
yeah, like what?
The birds, man.
Are they just trying? I don't know what it is. Like why they think this adds more to the program and it takes away. Because it's just so you're doing this just because you want to do it rather than actually adding any value. Anyway, yeah, night one was so good. And to your point about the SmackDown Women's Championship, I've said it, like that storyline, I think it wasn't bad. It was just, it didn't feel like I was, oh my God, I can't wait till they fight one another, that they compete. It's going to be a good match. But until they started getting into it, and I think the fans knew, and we all knew, I think, that Bianca was going to win. So it was the anticipation of Bianca being crowned champion, I think, for most fans. But the match quality was just, I mean, it was like 9.5 out of 10. It was so good. The match was absolutely deserving. After seeing it in retrospect, absolutely deserving of the main event. I wouldn't have put any other match for night one in that spot. It was that good.
I agree, and I think the other match really quick from night one that I really enjoyed as well was Cesaro and Seth Rollins. I was just, again, the feel-good moment for Cesaro. It was perfect, and I'm so happy they allowed him to go over on Seth because at this point Seth doesn't need it, especially at WrestleMania. Seth has built his career. Seth is pretty much a made man. Yes, he's not as strong as like a Roman Reigns or anything like that, but he kind of reminds me of, I don't want to say a Shawn Michaels, but maybe Shawn Michaels in the second half, whereas like Shawn didn't need to win a title, he didn't need to really be in the main event, but you can kind of like insert him and take him out whenever you need to. And that's probably not the best example right now, but Seth is just at the point where he's a star and he can take a loss at WrestleMania, whereas Cesaro really needed this moment and really deserved, of course, this moment, if nothing else. And it was kind of surprising. I didn't even realize that was his actual first singles match at WrestleMania after all this time. So just another reason why I was super happy for him. And it was a good, solid match as well. And Cesaro is just unreal what he can do in the ring. His strength and with that, the spin with Rollins on his neck without holding him is just unreal.
Oh my God, I remember that.
I can't even imagine.
Wow.
I can't even imagine.
The strength of that guy is scary, and they say it every time. And the guy isn't the most muscular, but you can tell just the way he's built. Even though he doesn't have a ton of muscle mass, but he has like that strength that's kind of hidden strength. Mm-hmm. He's just insane. And I'm with you about Seth. The guy, to your point, I guess everybody, if they're there long enough and they have a certain level of success, reach that threshold, that kind of intangible place in their career where they are a made man or woman and they can take big losses and yet not take a big hit on their credibility even at a WrestleMania. And Seth is at that point. Had Cesaro lost, that would have hurt Cesaro much more than it would have hurt Seth Rollins losing. Seth Rollins losing, we're not even talking about it. We're not even thinking about it. I mean, it's more about Cesaro. Seth is a made man. Cesaro is the guy that we're thinking, okay, are they going to do anything with this win? Or is this just a win that okay, great, you got your big win at WrestleMania, and then you just put him back in kind of the upper mid-card and occasionally dip his toe in the main event, back to the mid-card. So what do you think? Do you think that this could be something that they're going to build on, or is it something that they're like, well, you had your moment?
I want to say they're going to build on it. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm so excited to see SmackDown this week, to see the follow-up. I can't even remember the last time I've been this excited for a SmackDown after WrestleMania as opposed to a Raw after WrestleMania, just because I feel like, and if you take a look at all the matches from both nights, the matches, at least for me personally, that I enjoyed the most had the best story, or an actual story, go figure, going into it. Whereas Raw, the show that has the most time each week, was kind of lacking on their storytelling for the matches going into it. For instance, like Rhea Ripley and Asuka, like that had pretty much no story at all going into it. So therefore the match, you weren't as emotionally invested in it because there's nothing for you to really get involved in unless you've been a huge Rhea Ripley fan over the years. And even then it's like you're kind of questioning yourself, like, why was she able to come on Monday Night Raw and just declare a spot? You can, and I think I even myself made a point, well, just to be a devil's advocate, well, she did, come down to the final two in the Royal Rumble, so she does, and she was at WrestleMania last year as the NXT Women's Champion, so she does have credentials, but so do a lot of other women on the roster as well. So it was just one of those things to me, but in a way, like it just kind of goes to show you how important storytelling is, because it makes life in wrestling so much easier. So I hope they do end up going with Cesaro going forward on SmackDown. I hope he maybe not opens the show, but I hope he's within like the first hour it comes out. And I kind of hope they go in the route maybe with him and Roman. I don't see him being the champion anytime soon, as sad as that is to say, but I think he could be a good opponent for Roman Reigns for maybe the next month or two, depending on where they go. They may just, since, this is WrestleMania Backlash coming up, they may go right into a rematch with Roman and Edge, or I guess it would be an actual one-on-one, their first one-on-one match. So they probably will go that route, since technically, if you think about it, like Edge he was pinned, but he wasn't the one on the mat, right? So he kind of has an excuse there. So they'll probably go that route, but I hope they push Cesaro here as well, because I don't know what would Cesaro do go in for the Intercontinental route. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with him going forward, but I hope they don't give him his WrestleMania win and then drop the ball on him.
And that's my fear. And, I wonder, had last year when Kevin Owens beat Seth Rollins, if he didn't get injured jumping off the WrestleMania sign, what they would have done. So Seth has had two big back-to-back losses, and yet he seems to be coming out the winner each time. I have my doubts with WWE, but I want to believe, right? Like you and I and all the Cesaro fans want to believe that they're going to actually do something with him, and I think it'd be a really good opponent for Roman Reigns. I had actually advocated months ago that they could build to a Cesaro-Roman Reigns main event at WrestleMania, and they opted not to. I understand why. But now that we're in post-WrestleMania territory, they can do these, I guess, in their mind, these lesser matchups with Cesaro challenging Roman Reigns at Backlash, or what's after that, like Money in the Bank, I think.
I think so.
So they can do that, and I think Cesaro would be an excellent opponent for Roman Reigns, and take him to that next level. But I don't think at the same time he's going to win the championship from Roman Reigns. Nor
should he right now.
No, that's the thing. I don't want anybody to, and that's not me cheering Roman. That's the ironic part, is I wouldn't go to the arena and cheer him. But I also respect how good of a heel he is, and I know that he's on night 2, so I guess I'll wait. But yeah, excellent match with these two. They were given 11 and a half minutes, and it was what you thought it would be. But there are other matches on night 1. It's up to you if you want to touch on them.
Yeah, really quick. I feel like I should, because I feel like at one point in our previous discussions, I probably crapped on Bad Bunny.
Oh yeah, me too.
So
bad. Yeah.
I feel like I need to, I guess, woman up and give credit where credit is due, because I was impressed. I was maybe even a little shocked. He didn't do anything groundbreaking, but I give him so much respect and so much props, and hearing some of the interviews going into it and how much he had trained, and for instance, like the night after the Grammys, he was right back in the gym the next day training, and he obviously doesn't need to. He doesn't need the money. He doesn't need any more notoriety or anything like that. Dude is set for life. And for him to devote, about 3 months now, maybe in total, maybe a little less, a little over, than 3 months into this, just because he loves it. And it was a passion of his growing up. And to see that he really put in the time to train and take this seriously, yes, granted, do I like celebrities involved? Of course not. And do I think it's foolish? Yeah. But for what it's worth, and for him in particular, I feel like he was, if not the best, one of the best celebrity performances we've ever seen in WWE. So I got to give him props to that. And that match, it actually ended up being pretty decent, much better than I expected. The whole bunny thing at the beginning was an embarrassment. I hated that. I did not like all the bunnies coming out in the costumes. That was just cringe-worthy,
yeah.
to say the least. But, it is what it is. You have to expect something like that. So for what it's worth, I feel like I had to at least give him some type of credit here. So, and it was cool, that little package that they did with him and Triple H, with him, Triple H saying something to the effect of, like, you did your job here, you did good at WrestleMania, or something to that effect, and him just driving off on his truck, on his 18-wheeler. It was a cool little send-off, so props to the bunny.
Yeah, like I said too, I hate eating my
As weird as
words,
it is.
but yeah, I mean, I'm taking my medicine, and I'll take it gladly because
Yeah.
this is one of those things that I'm glad I was wrong that he would be a
Mm-hmm.
total embarrassment in the ring. Now, do I still like his personality? Am I supposed to be cheering for this guy based on what I've seen personality wise? No, I think he's a perfect heel. In terms of if he was a regular performer, but inside the ring, man, I think he more than overachieved. I think he was well beyond anybody's even wild expectations of what it could be. We've all seen and have been educated over the last 10, 15 years, however long that we've all been watching wrestling, or more in a lot of people's cases, that when they bring in celebrities, number one, they're going over, right? Like that is almost always the case when they're in a match. They always go over. Especially at WrestleMania. Now Logan Paul wasn't in a match, although he got the better end of things, and we'll get to that in night 2. But this was a absolute an overachievement is even understating it. I got to give him absolute credit. You don't get that good that quick without busting your ass every day for several months, and so absolute credit to the dude. He did exactly what in more than he ever needed to do, and I think if he ever came back, I think that the fans would cheer for him, and I understand why. I just didn't like the story that was presented to me. I don't think that it was just bad. And like the bunnies coming out at the beginning, I said, oh, that set the tone. I'm like, here we go, But cool, great. Bad Bunny was beyond what we could have thought, and I think I might have said this, but he probably raised the bar for celebrity interactions at WrestleMania. Anybody else comes in, people. I don't think anybody's going to be able to touch this right now. So
no. Yeah, I agree with you 100% there, but yeah, just wanted to give him his little props there, as weird as it is, but yeah, so I guess that leads us to night 2. Do you want to start off with The Fiend and Randy Orton?
Whoa, well, yeah.
Or do you want to hold on to that one?
I mean, people know my thoughts on it. It's really, even seeing Monday Night Raw, with Alexa Bliss now having Lily there, and I've even seen, actually on the Botch Guy's YouTube channel, he pointed out that in the transition, those quick little flashes they do when like scary images, it's like a second flash, and in that flash that Alexa had when she was either going in or out of the video, it said sister, and I don't know what that means. It could mean Sister Abigail, or it could mean nothing. Some people are speculating that she could be bringing in Nikki Cross because there's crosses in the eyes of the doll. I mean, I don't know if even WWE is thinking this deep, but anyway, as far as this goes, this match, it was disappointing. Is for as good as of a match that Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks left us with, it was as bad of a match to open night 2 with Randy Orton and The Fiend. And the crowd was like, what the hell? I paid how many thousands of dollars to be here for a 4-month angle to be paid off like this? The Fiend was reborn. There's no explanation why a single RKO, one, was enough to beat him, yet this guy was lit on fire. He had sledgehammers smashed in his face, chairs over his back and on his head. He was slammed into the Hell in a Cell. He got how many stomps and pedigrees from Seth Rollins, and yet one RKO was apparently the antidote to cure the Fiend. It made no sense. It was 5 minutes long, short on top of it, and Alexa Bliss sits there with a crown on her head, bleeding black blood or ink or whatever that was. I was sitting there. I actually said out loud, I said, what the F? My wife looks at me. She's like, what's wrong? I'm like, I can't explain it to her because it would have taken forever, and she doesn't care, Right. So God, Ashley, what was going through your mind during this? Like, what happened?
So, okay, and I'm going to sound crazy, but just hear me out for a bit. I didn't hate the match. I didn't hate the entire segment, if you want to call it that. I was a fan of the whole entrance. I was a little bummed that he didn't come out in the full, like, burned alive suit gimmick, because to me, when he reappeared that first time, and even one of my friends who was over, when she saw that, she legit got scared. She was like, what the F is that? And she was like, she even said, she was like, because she used to watch WWE, WWF back in like of course when everyone else did, right? The Attitude Era stage.
Right.
She was like, if I was watching this 10 years ago, I would be terrified. And so and she was engaged, like that caught her attention, and she was like, I want to see what plays out, and just seeing that from, I don't want to say like a non-fan, but from an outsider who has not followed the product at all for at least 10 years, that was more exciting for me because it's like, okay, cool, like you get to see like what hooks an outsider, and of course it's one of those things is like, how do you easily explain it? So I kind of tried to, but so I showed her the beginning of WrestleMania as I was watching it as well because I watched it on delay, and when he came out of the box, and okay, so that whole concept was cool, but to me, but I first of all feel like he definitely should have still been in the whole burn alive gimmick suit, if you want to call it that, because how do you go from literally being burned alive to showing up as your burned version, which obviously makes sense, and then just maybe a month later just being back to the regular Fiend? Now he did have different gear on, different tops and everything like that, but I don't know, to me that I was just kind of bummed by that personally. But I didn't hate the match. The part that just killed it for me was exactly what you said. Him losing to one RKO. And for the simple fact that for the, 4.5 minutes up into that in the actual match, he was pretty much no-selling everything already. He was, slammed into the table, got right back up. Like, pretty much everything Randy did, he was getting right back up, which is what we've come to expect from the Fiend, which is how the whole Hell in a Cell match started back with Seth. So to see all that, and then for him to be distracted by Alexa because of the black gunk or whatever it was coming out of her crown, and to lose with one RKO, I was like, you gotta be, kidding me. Like, first of all, I don't think he should have lost. I think him losing was the wrong choice. Randy Orton does not need it at all. And I don't even think maybe they did it in the sense because Randy needed it. Obviously this is leading into something else, but this dude just can't catch a break. And it's so frustrating because how are you supposed to build a character like his, a supernatural, for lack of better words, character, and just continue to crush him? It's just so frustrating. It's like, to me, I kind of liken it to NXT in a weird way. It's like you want to get emotionally involved, you want to get invested and just put time and your emotion into this, but the second you do, you feel foolish for doing it because they just pull the rug out right from underneath of you. And that's how I felt with that. For him to get right back up and then to stare at her, and obviously he was pissed off and because she cost him the match. And even in that sense too, it's like you were that distracted and you lost by one RKO. It didn't make sense to me, and that's what killed it. But I didn't hate everything else leading up to it. I loved the pageantry and like him coming out of the box. I thought that was a really cool throwback to how he initially was debuted with those vignettes. So, man, I'm not mad that I am mad, I guess, that he lost in a way, but I'm the part that really kills it the most for me is how he lost with one RKO and then that's it. And then the lights go out and then they're just gone. I would have been furious if I was there. Like, let me tell you, if I paid, like you said, at that point, thousands of dollars to go to the show and go through all those weather conditions and everything like that to see which would have been one of the highlights for me, to see the Fiend and Randy Orton, to see how it comes to the conclusion, and for the whole thing to be maybe within 10 minutes, counting the introductions, the match itself, and then them disappearing. It was just a letdown, and it's just kind of like a smack in the face. I feel like
it.
And maybe I'm too hard on it, but it's just, I don't know.
They deserve to get pounded for this. There's no logic really on any of the finish for this. Made no sense. Like you said, I'll even be okay with the Fiend being reborn, and we were, shown that basically he shed his snake skin and he's reborn. Well, if he's reborn, shouldn't he be more powerful than ever? I mean, if you're going with supernatural logic.
And she didn't do much to distract him. Like, that was what got me. Like, just because his black gunk was dripping down her face, like, that's it? Like, really? Like, that's it? Like, I would have, when I saw it, I was like, she should have had, like, some black mist that she sprayed in his face. Because then you could have gone crazy with it, like Papa Shango back in the day. Like, the mist, like, affected him and, like, did a spell. Like, just anything crazy for it to be more plausible for him to lose than to just seeing it drip down her face and getting hit with one RKO and then calling it a night. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I mean... The whole deal with the burn suit that was one of the best outfits I've ever seen.
Yes.
I mean, it was so well done.
Yes.
Movie quality. It was so awesome. But I was thinking when they showed us that, as awesome as that was, can he wrestle in this? And I'm thinking, or is this just for show and he can
Right.
only move so, the mobility in that thing is not meant to be wrestled in, and it'll tear, it'll come off, whatever. And I'm thinking, oh, that's probably why he had to, quote, be reborn and shed the skin so he could actually wrestle in an outfit that wouldn't fall off. So that's most likely the reason, because otherwise, I mean, WWE knows how much the fans loved that outfit. They wouldn't purposefully get rid of it knowing that it was so damn well received if it didn't have to be. So it looks like it had to be removed for mobility purposes. So, but beyond that, I mean, they have now gone with two extremes for The Fiend. They've gone, you can do anything to The Fiend. There's nothing that can stop you. You can light him on fire, hit him with sledgehammers and chairs and like anything. Steel steps, through tables, doesn't matter. Multiple finishers, nothing puts him down to, except one RKO. I mean, they have gone from one extreme to the other. I don't know what The Fiend is anymore. Is he unbeatable? Is he not? What is The Fiend? I think they've done some damage here to what exactly he is. And I thought, when she did this with the crown, I'm thinking, well, that's, she's mimicking Sister Abigail. That's what's distracting him. And they were going to tie it back to Sister Abigail somehow. And they didn't. It was just, so that distracts the Fiend? I mean, that for what? What reason? Why would that distract the Fiend? What was the symbolism there? They didn't even explain it. There was no explanation on Raw, except for Alexa saying, was the darkness in my way? Or did I have to, remove it or take, basically overcome it? And I'm thinking, if you wanted to not bring the Fiend back and not have to deal with the darkness, why'd you bring him back in the first place? This is like, it made no sense. Now she has her own doll, her own power. I don't know. I'm not sure where they're going with that. I'm glad she has her own storyline. That's good. That's what I wanted. But she didn't have to break from the Fiend to do it. And the last thing I'll say, the lights out at the end of that match, I'm thinking, okay, well, as terrible as that ending was, I'm thinking when the lights go out and they come back on, there's going to be an explanation. There's going to be a big payoff. Somebody's going to appear. Something's going to happen. And the lights came back on and they're like, okay, next match. I'm like, what? Like the lights come on, no one's there. It was infuriating, and I would have been. I would be surprised that I didn't hear it. Maybe they cut it out, like the BS chants. I'm sure we're there, but yeah.
Yeah, and like you said, the point you just made there, if they wanted to transition to Alexa having her own storyline, I feel like what you and I had spoke about before, they very well could have easily done that and had the Fiend supporting Alexa and having the Fiend show up at ringside with her and just pretty much be for her what she has been to him and just enhance her character and enhance this dark side. And if they want her to have power over him, like they could just go a whole morbid, twisted way with it. So I don't know. I feel like they really missed out on something here, and they just dropped the ball. And I don't know why. I'm trying to give it the benefit of the doubt. I was very let down by Monday's, conclusion or wrap up from it and their progression or lack thereof, because I was expecting an explanation or at least something or at least more of an idea why they went that route. And we got Lily. So we'll see how this plays out. But I don't know, and like you said with the suit, I thought that as well, but especially with what he was wearing with that long black sleeve shirt, like they could have, in my opinion, very easily left his head, the burned up mask version, and then just covered his body everywhere else, so you can't even see skin. So you very well could think, oh, okay, well his body is still burned, but he's covering it, and you only see his burnt up face. So I don't know, maybe the mask itself was too much, but I was just so disappointed. It's just probably a little thing, but it just kind of took away, like when I saw him, it was just one of the things I was like, okay, like this is just back to the regular Fiend, and then like he's no selling everything, so it's
right off the bat.
Yeah. So it is what it is, but I guess if nothing else, I'm just happy Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt are done with each other now.
Yeah, they are, and I don't know where Randy goes. Maybe facing Braun Strowman, for Backlash. I'm not sure, but it's funny. Randy Orton said that he actually said on Raw that The Fiend and Alexa Bliss have disappeared. They're gone. I'm like, no. I'm like, they haven't. They're right here. They haven't disappeared.
Right. Do you not know she has a segment later on?
I'm like,
do you not see the run card?
Yeah, but did you not watch the segment before? I mean, like,
Right.
what are you talking about, Randy? They didn't disappear. You could have just said, they're now behind me. I put them behind me. I dealt with them, instead of saying they disappeared. That was just the wrong
they're
word.
crazy. Like, I'm done. Like, simple. Like,
Yeah.
just something to that effect. Like, I can't deal with it anymore. Like, I'm keeping my distance. Just something and just be done.
Yeah.
Not they've disappeared.
I'm like,
Because clearly they
and
haven't.
he said it like twice. I'm like, Randy, no, they
No,
didn't.
dude.
They're both here.
No.
They're both well and active, and whatever. It was just one of those things. I think he just chose wrong, wasn't thinking it through.
Yeah.
Whatever. Okay. Now, I know that on night one you didn't mention Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre. Did you want to?
Oh, yeah, really quick. Honestly, like, I would give that match maybe like a 5 out of 10 for me, maybe 5.5. I was expecting it to be a little bit more hard-hitting, just a little bit more. I think I was expecting more of like a Sheamus Drew type match where they just like stiff shots, just nonstop, just like more like punches and hits to each other than like actual like moves. So I was just a little taken back by that. But it was still a solid match, and I was just happy that they ended up making Bobby look strong, and Bobby went over, and they're going forward with Bobby as the champion. I am a big Drew McIntyre fan. We've talked about him for years in the past. And I'm happy for Drew, and I'm happy that he got his moment at WrestleMania. And yes, if things were different, I would have preferred to see him win. But with this version of Bobby Lashley, and seeing that the company is invested in him and they're keeping MVP with him, even though they broke up the Hurt business prematurely, in my opinion, I think the right guy went over here, and I'm just happy that they're sticking with Bobby Lashley and going forward. Now it looks like they're going to have a rematch at WrestleMania Backlash. And with that, I guess it's fine, but I think they need to keep the belt on Bobby Lashley and keep going forward. And I hope this leads to a possible like SummerSlam match with maybe Bobby and Brock, which is probably not going to happen. If Brock comes back, he'll most likely do something with Roman. But just wishful thinking, if nothing else. I hope they keep it on Bobby Lashley going forward and just keep him strong, because Lord knows they need strong heel champions, and Bobby Lashley is the one.
Yep. Yeah, Bobby Lashley. I'm all for seeing how this run works. That's what I wanted, because if he had lost to Mania, it's kind of like, well, fans would feel gypped. It would feel like this was cut way, way too short, and that we really didn't get a sense of how he is as champion. There wasn't enough of a sample size if they decided to drop the belt to Drew to say, well, yeah, his run was good, or it wasn't, or what. There just wasn't enough time, and his only opponent really was The Miz for the WWE Championship. So he hasn't really been battle tested up until this time, defending his championship anyway. And Drew McIntyre loses clean. I don't want to hear that. Oh, he was distracted by MVP. That's the out. That shouldn't even have existed. That was a stupid.
Which was so stupid.
Stupid. And to be honest, how is that a distraction for Drew? MVP is screaming, half the match. He's yelling at Bobby Lashley for stuff. And he actually said, Lashley, I think he said Bobby Lashley or something. And I listened. That's what he said, and that's what distracted Drew. I'm like, wait, he's been screaming that all match. Why would you look at him in the biggest moment of your career at WrestleMania, and you're supposed to be focused on Bobby Lashley, who could, tear your head off at any minute, and yet because we have MVP screaming at ringside, you're distracted by that. It just didn't need to be in there. It didn't need to be there at all. I don't want anything tainting the Lashley win, and there is a small little fly in the ointment for that. Okay, he took his eye off the ball for 1 second with MVP, and that was like Vince's, well, we can't completely put him over, right? We got to have something. No, just put him over clean. I don't know why that even needed to exist.
Exactly, especially if we're going right back to the rematch next month.
Right.
Drew is a strong enough babyface character at this point where he could have lost that match clean, came out the next night on Monday Night Raw, cut a passionate babyface promo saying Bobby Lashley was the better man. It pains me to say it, but he got me on WrestleMania night. But I'm going to do everything I can to fight my way back and get back into the title match, and then which would have progressed to the match later on that night that he obviously won, and then now it's the same path. But I don't know. You you hurt your babyface's credibility when they do stupid stuff like that. Because, and it blows my mind because you mean to tell me like you've never heard anyone yell your name? Like you had fans at ringside, for instance, like they're yelling all this stuff all the time. So I know, it's just bizarre to me. Like it doesn't make sense. You would not. Your average fighter would not get distracted by something like that. So
No.
it's just so frustrating. It's because it's so unnecessary.
And it doesn't only hurt Drew, it also hurts Bobby, because you look at it
Yeah.
as, oh, if he didn't have that, he wouldn't have won.
Exactly.
I mean, it hurts everybody involved for anything like this to have happened. And I'm a massive MVP fan.
Me too.
It nothing to do with him or really any of the competitors. It's whoever booked this match that you got to have that little wrinkle there. No, you don't. You do
It's like
not.
your champion has to lose. Like, no, your champion doesn't have to lose going into a match, like going into a title match. Like, oh, they have to lose a non-title match. So, no, keep your champion strong. Keep your competitor strong. So that leads into the problem that you have. You have no solid division because everyone's made to look weak. So it's just one of those things that's unnecessary.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting more heated about this than I, originally thought. I mean, because it was such a small thing, and he looked over, and all of a sudden now, like, the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm kind of like, you cowards. Like, the creative on this were cowards to not just yes, Bobby Lashley's a heel. Just because you're a heel doesn't mean you always have to cheat somehow or have underhanded tactics to win. You don't. And I don't think MVP was purposefully trying to distract Drew by screaming Bobby Lashley's name. Like, that's not on Lashley. That's not on anybody but Drew. But yet it's perceived that it was a distraction that was perpetrated on purpose by MVP to. It's a just. The more I think about it now, maybe I'm making a mountain out of a molehill, as they say. But now I'm kind of like really pissed that they did that. So.
To me, it was glaring. Like, that was when I saw that, I was like when I saw that and it led to the finish, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, it's just unnecessary. Like, I would respect Drew McIntyre more for losing clean and coming out and saying, yeah, the better man won last night, but I'm gonna fight my way back to the main event title, get my rematch, and then go from there. And I'm gonna learn from my mistakes, blah blah blah, call it a day. And then have Bobby Lashley come out and say, I didn't need anyone's help, I beat him one-on-one, and pretty much the exact same thing on the heel side. So it's just it's for me, maybe me too. Maybe I'm making more of it than what it was, but it's just one of those things that I feel like leads to the bigger issue. It's that a lot of the characters and a lot of your wrestlers just don't have credibility because of stupid, unnecessary stuff. So.
Yep. No.
But
I'm
I guess that's just how it is.
All right. Before I go off the deep end on this, okay, continue on. Pick your next match, any match for WrestleMania.
So I think the Big E Apollo Crews match. That was the next one that kind of stood out to me. I was surprised, honestly, that they ended up going with Apollo there. I don't know. I'm interested to see what they do with Big E going forward. If they're gonna maybe, as we were talking earlier, maybe transition him into a more serious role as well, or if they're gonna go right back into a rematch there. But I'm happy for Apollo Crews, and I'm happy with what they're allowing him to do, and they're giving him a little bit more time to shine and actually letting him embrace this character. I don't like all the aspects of it, but I'm just happy he has a solid character and a solid storyline, and they actually gave him the ball and gave him a nice WrestleMania moment. The Nigerian drum match? Was that the exact title of it?
Nigerian drum fight. Yeah, they did use a single
yeah.
drum in the entire.
Thank you. Yeah. Just
Sorry.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the whole point of it was the drum fight, but there was no utilization of the drums. It might as well just been like a non-DQ or no DQ match or something like that. But I guess it is what it is. But I'm just happy that Apollo's getting his moment here, and I'm interested to see what they do with Big E going forward.
Yeah, me too. And, Apollo Crews, I think what they did here was go with the hot hand. They went with the shiny new toy. And I get that. I think Apollo Crews, number one, I think absolutely Apollo Crews is deserving. He's been here long enough to earn an Intercontinental Championship match, even higher than that, I think. Apollo Crews, has been here and has certainly proved himself, and he has the respect of fans. But I think this gimmick change is the best thing that has ever happened to him ever. I mean, it feels like he's found himself. Yes, he adopted a Nigerian accent, and I was kind of weird with that at first because you never just adopt an accent. It's always the other way around where they drop them. And Apollo Crews, but it feels natural. Like, I'm not at this point, I'm not even thinking about it. It just feels like that's the way he speaks. And he does truly have Nigerian royalty heritage in his family. I mean, these are all true things, and it's great that he's pulling off of this. But the Nigerian drum fight, it was anything but a drum fight. It was, the utilization of kendo sticks. That's WWE's favorite weapon of choice in, the last few years. And that's really what it was, a couple of steel steps and that kind of thing. But it was a short match. I'm looking here, 6 minutes and 50 seconds. It was short. I was hoping that it'd go a little bit longer. I think they're capable of longer. And those that are concerned about Big E and how this drops him in the pecking order of WWE, I would argue it's the exact opposite. I mean, and I mentioned this in my review show, so I apologize for repeating, but I can't come up with everything original. But Big E could be elevated now to a new level. Like, I mean, you looked at Bobby Lashley. He dropped the United States Championship a week before he got inserted into the WWE Championship picture. So just because they dropped the belt doesn't mean that they're going to be, they're not going to descend in order. They are actually just being removed from that particular championship race to go into another championship race. And I think that's probably where they're going with Big E over the summer. I don't think it's going to happen right away. He'll probably challenge Apollo a couple of more times. But I think that's where they're going with Big E. While people look at this as a demotion, I think it's a blessing in disguise.
Couldn't agree with you there more.
All right. Well, keep going here. You got some other matches here. You got,
so
Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Rhea Ripley. What do you want?
Yeah, I'm going to touch on Riddle and Sheamus because that one was, man, that bro kick to Riddle's face.
My God. Yeah.
Again, when that happened, I was like, you got to be kidding me. I was hoping for a replay really quick, and it sure enough, because I was like, there's no way. Because at first I was like, is he actually bleeding? Because honestly, at first I was like, I didn't know if he made full contact or if it was a little off, but man, I got flashbacks to when it was Ricochet and Adam Cole, and Adam Cole just hit Ricochet with that super kick, and Ricochet just crumbled. And Matt, man, his face, say what you want, and I am one of those people with the Riddle character in the back, on the scooter, making the dumb jokes and stuff like that. When he gets in that ring, you completely forget about everything. Yep. He has something about him that just screams star. And I think, as stupid as it is right now, I think, or maybe stupid's not the right word, as unnecessary as it is in a lot of people's eyes, I think it's kind of showing Vince all the sides to Riddle and his personality and the range. And I think in a weird way, this is what needs to happen for him right now. Because once he gets in the ring, you take him seriously. There's no way you can't. Everyone he gets in the ring with, it's a hard-hitting, solid match. And that match that he had with Sheamus was just, I was a little bummed out that he lost, but I'm kind of hoping I was hoping that this would maybe lead into something else for him. But what was it? Him and Bobby Lashley for 20 minutes or something on Raw the other night, and in that match, I didn't think that Riddle necessarily needed to go straight to Bobby Lashley the night after, but it is what it is. But kudos to both of them because that was another hard-hitting match, and Sheamus deserved that nice little moment. So because he hasn't really gotten a good solid win in a while, and I think he'll be a fun champion going forward. But he's a heel now still, right? Sheamus?
Yes, still heel.
Okay. Yeah, so I think that's good, and I think it's interesting to see that Raw's two champions are heels now. So it'll be fun to see where they go going forward and who steps up to face Sheamus. But I thought that was a pretty solid match.
Heel champions are always better. I mean, almost always better. And I know people love the thrill of the chase, but that's exactly what I think we all love deep down is the thrill of the chase. When the babyface gets to the top, a lot of times it's like, okay, got it, now what? I mean, that's why I think most of the time you will see champions that are heels. I bet you if somebody did a study or looked at the numbers, most of the time championships are held by heels. But anyway, the side note. Now, so Riddle and Sheamus, that match was, and I tweeted this out. I said, damn. I said, these two are killing each other. Yes. Something along those lines. And they were, they didn't hold any punches. They were laying it in. Two guys that have very similar styles. They're stiff, but they're safe. Yes, Riddle got busted in the face, but it's one of those safe but damn stiff matches that you roll out of bed the next morning and all you do is groan. I mean, those two must have been they just felt like they got hit by a truck with the physicality that they dished out in about 11 minutes this match was. it was. I mean, I give Riddle all the credit in the world. Do I like his kind of stoner, persona? No, I don't. I think it's obnoxious. I don't think it's endearing. All these weird, wacky thoughts he has about space and aliens and tinfoil hats and all these things. Like, I don't find it entertaining. I personally don't like it. But as you said, all of that gets erased when the bell rings. And Riddle can work with anybody. He's got a bright future. He's young. I think eventually his character will evolve from this pothead, for lack of a better term, to a much more serious character over time and turn him heel. I think there's a lot of money in Matt Riddle being a heel as well. So there's a lot of juice left to squeeze out of Matt Riddle. But props to Sheamus, who is deserving of this. It's been over 2 years since he's held the championship in WWE, a singles championship. So I am really happy for Sheamus, an unsung hero of the WWE roster over the last 6 months, a workhorse, a guy that's been there, been through it all. And I could even see him as, WWE champion at some point, or Universal champion. He could go anywhere. I mean, Sheamus is a guy that's, you look at him as kind of the mid-upper card. He occasionally visits the main event, but he's not perennially there. He's there once in a while, but you don't look at him as the top guy. You look at him as kind of the plug him anywhere. He's gonna be good. He's very consistent.
Like a Seth Rollins, like I was mentioning earlier.
Yep, exactly. That's what he is. So I'm happy for Sheamus. Riddle's got a long way to go, so I don't feel bad for him losing the United States Championship, because had Keith Lee not gotten injured, Matt Riddle wouldn't have been part of the United States Championship triple threat that had happened. Keith Lee would have been champion at this point. It would have been Sheamus versus Keith Lee for WrestleMania. So, yeah.
Good point.
So, all right.
And then
go ahead.
Yeah, really quick, and then the Asuka and Rhea Ripley match. I kind of mentioned it earlier. The match itself was okay. It was lacking. I don't know if chemistry is what they were lacking, or it was just, I don't know. It was missing something to me, and maybe what it was missing was the story itself. Like I said earlier, that emotional factor that I just wasn't locked in like I was to, for instance, Sasha and Bianca or some of the other matches. But I'm curious to see what they do with Rhea Ripley as champion going forward, especially since Charlotte is back now on Raw, and I think they're going to. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I didn't see all of Raw, but Charlotte interfered in that match, correct, with their rematch on Raw?
Yeah, she just interfered and attacked both women, leaving them laying. Yes.
Okay, yeah. So we'll see what they do going forward with them too. And I'm curious to see, I guess Rhea is going to be the babyface going forward, because Charlotte is clearly a heel, which I'm so happy for, which we'll touch on in a minute. But I don't know, the match at WrestleMania kind of just was missing something for me, which is a shame, because I feel like had they maybe brought Rhea Ripley out sooner and actually built something for her and Asuka, it would have been different. And maybe they weren't even planning on that, and they were planning on Charlotte and Asuka, and it was a last minute thing. So I don't know. I guess in a way we can't be too hard on them, but in a way it's like, you kind of get tired of giving excuses and just giving outs, because it's like, yeah, you did have a curveball, but that's why you should be having a plan B, and building other stories and stuff up to it. So there's never a missing or a match that's lacking, especially at WrestleMania, and especially for the women's title. So I don't know. It was what it was, but definitely wasn't anything that I would go back and rewatch, which is sad to say. And poor Asuka, man, like, she's just gotten just the short end of the stick, and it's just, I feel for her. I kind of hope she kind of gets some time off and just kind of fades away for a while and just comes back maybe in a few 3-4 months or something like that, and just does something else, and maybe on a different brand. Maybe she's, I don't know, that could be a long time. I was about to say maybe she's out until the next shakeup, but that might not be until October. But I don't know, she just needs something. Maybe if it's going back to NXT, I don't know, but they're doing her dirty too, so it's just one of those things. But we'll see what happens with Rhea Ripley going forward, and I think they should make Rhea the babyface with going against Charlotte, because Charlotte's promo on Raw was just out of this park. Like, she hit it out of the park. Like, it was just on point. And what we needed from Charlotte years ago, and what they should have done with her years ago, establish her as that strong, pretty much the strong heel face of the women's division, and just go from there. But I don't know, the match at WrestleMania between those two, it was just kind of lacking for me.
Yeah,
and I think you agreed as well on that.
Yeah, definitely. And as I'm trying to think of some other things on this match that I haven't already said, it's I think a lot of things were working against Rhea Ripley and Asuka in this match. Number one, the story was Rhea Ripley just came out and challenged her, and no one said boo about it. No one even for the Raw Women's Championship in one of the main events for WrestleMania for the Raw Women's Championship. There was no one else who even contested it. They just all accepted it. No one even, I think probably the women in the back were like, we have a women's championship? What? And I think they were probably surprised. They forgot because it hasn't been defended on a pay-per-view in 6 months. Which I've ranted on that many times. There's no excuse for that. None. There's nothing anyone could say to me that it would make it okay.
You have a 3-hour show weekly.
And yeah, well, there's nobody to challenge Asuka. That's a bunch of nonsense too. So it's inexcusable how much they've buried the Raw Women's Championship. But the other thing that was working against them, a couple other things. Number one, the amount of in-ring time that these two have had together lately. I mean, clearly they didn't have a whole lot of chemistry. Not only because sometimes chemistry just doesn't exist no matter how many times you work with somebody, but also because they just flat out haven't worked together very much and their styles are kind of conflicting. It's a little bit of oil and water there. Also, the other thing you have working against them is Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks. How great of a match that was. I mean, really a WrestleMania classic, I believe. You have them, you have Rhea Ripley and Asuka trying to follow them after night one. Good luck. I mean, so there's so much that went against them. And they got 13 minutes. Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks got 17 minutes, so a little bit more time. I don't know if that would have helped them anyway, but I felt for Asuka, of course, who's been just every time WrestleMania comes around, if she's champion or not, it just never seems to end well for her. She lost to Charlotte. Her streak was broken by Charlotte at WrestleMania. She lost to Charlotte 2 weeks before WrestleMania 35. Drops the SmackDown Women's Championship. She
never
just
forgive them for that.
No, I really that's like a mortal, unforgivable sin I will not pass WWE for. But Rhea Ripley here, yeah, she's crowned champion. It felt a little underwhelming. I was like excited, but I was nowhere near as excited as I was with Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks. And then they had a rematch on Raw that was just as clunky. I mean, their match on Raw was not good. A lot of botches, and it's weird to say that with two very well-rounded professionals, especially Asuka.
It's exactly.
It was like it felt like they just got in the ring for the first time, and a lot of misses, and announcers trying to cover for them, and it was not good. And I hate saying that with two stars like this, but Charlotte back, yeah. I mean, I don't know when you want to get into that, but certainly there's a lot to discuss with Charlotte back. So
yeah. Just one more thing, really quick, on WrestleMania itself. Well, I guess two more things really quick. The Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn match, again, just thinking when they both came out and seeing how emotional Kevin was, it was another one of those feel-good moments because you know first of all, how long they've been friends, right? Which makes it even cooler that they finally got a WrestleMania match together. But the fact that they're friends, their careers, like they literally grew up in this business together, and just seeing it pretty much culminate at WrestleMania and them having that one-on-one match together, to me it was just cool. Like it was such a good moment, and it played out the way it should have. And I just love this Sami Zayn character. I think he's so comical. It's so obnoxious, and his little dance that he had on SmackDown in his little suit that's now like a gif or whatever. It cracks me up. And him with his long hair, like everything about him right now, I just love. So, and I think the right person got the win here with Kevin Owens. Kevin needed it to, I guess, go for it, but in a weird way, Kevin Owens is kind of like one of those guys that's like, what do you really do with him now going forward? So
that's why
maybe he can.
SmackDown's so intriguing, isn't it?
I know.
Yeah.
Maybe he can go after Apollo Crews since Apollo's now a strong heel champion. If they're going to move Big E away from Apollo, I think that would be fun. Just to see that dynamic there with Kevin and Apollo. But I think and to their credit with this, is it Paul Logan or Logan Paul?
Logan Paul. I know they're
Paul,
both
right?
first names, so you don't know which one's first. Yeah.
Right. So Logan Paul, I think he played his part well. I'll give him credit too. Like he did pretty much nothing at ringside, but he was like cheering on when he was supposed to. Like he was in the match, but he wasn't being over the top with it, or as over the top as he could have been. And he got stunned at the end, which at one point I was like, please tell me they're not just gonna let this end with Logan like raising Kevin's hand or anything like that, or just having nothing happen. But Logan Paul, to his credit, took the stunner. I mean, which isn't that terribly hard to take, but at least he did it, and it was just a cool moment, and it's kind of gave you that old school feeling because it's the same thing Austin would do it no
Yep.
matter who you were. If you were an old woman, a young,
Didn't
well,
matter.
not a young child, but you know, the range of people. Like, it didn't matter if you were Linda McMahon or a diva. If you were in the ring with Austin, you were going to get stunned no matter what. Referees, doesn't
Yeah.
matter. So it was just cool just to see a kind of little throwback and just a glimpse of that. So that was pretty much my thoughts on that one. But just shout out to both of them. And it was a pretty good solid match as well.
It was. Yeah, these two, you knew this was zero chance of this being a bad match with the chemistry and the history and everything else. These two went at it. It was good. Sami Zayn, you thought had it won with the haluba kick, but then kind of shot himself in the foot by delaying and kind of being a showman, and he ends up getting the stunner and losing. And yeah, Logan Paul getting also stunned was a crowd favorite. That you could argue is one of the biggest pops of the night, was Logan Paul being stunned, because it was so akin to what Austin would have done. And as you said, Austin stunned everybody. People forget this. Mae Young, he actually stunned Mae Young. He stunned Linda McMahon. He stunned Stacy Keibler. I go down to Stephanie McMahon. I mean, he's no Molly Holly. I mean, I could go down the list. He's no, of course, much different era. That would never fly in 2021. But so it did make you feel a little bit like Stone Cold was there in spirit to me. It was great to see Logan Paul. I know who he is. I don't follow his stuff. He's had some really bad press in the past. Doesn't seem like he's a really good dude with things he's done, but I'll leave it there. So whatever, it is what it is. I'm glad that a celebrity came in and didn't look like $1 million going out. That they actually were there to just kind of play the butt of the joke, and that's fine.
Exactly.
And that's totally cool. So, all right, what else? I know you got a couple more here to definitely talk about. So.
Yeah, the main one, we have to talk about that main event, of course, right?
Yeah,
we can't miss that. Like that, everything about it, from Daniel Bryan coming out, then Edge coming out, and first just seeing Edge again, not to be sappy, but again, there was another feel-good moment, just seeing Edge come back after 10 years to the day. It was just such a cool moment, and like we've spoke about before, I'm a huge Edge fan, just so happy he came back and finally was able to get that moment in front of the fans like he deserved. Granted, he had it at the Royal Rumble, but still at WrestleMania. And to be back in that match, and just the thought that all three of these guys, maybe a year and a half, 2 years, probably about 2 years ago, none of them were wrestling. Yeah. Roman Reigns was out because of his leukemia. Daniel Bryan was still retired. And Edge was out. We weren't even thinking about Edge, really. So it's just maybe a little longer than 2 years, but it's just cool to think back a couple years ago where all these three guys were, and to look at them now in the main event of WrestleMania for the World Championship. So it was just a cool moment for that, and seeing Roman Reigns come out all of them coming out wearing the lace and everything like that. But the fact that, and I don't know if they did it on purpose, but he took a good, 45 seconds after his music started to even come out. Yeah. And that was just such a nice little touch, because it shows that we are on his time. Like, he's going to come out when he wants to come out. He's the head of the table. The show revolves around him. And it's just a cool little moment. I'm sure it was planned, but it was cool that it was just a nice little added, I guess, little thing to his character, to his heel side, that, he's a bad you-know-what, and we're going to wait on him, and we have no choice, essentially. But that leads me to my next point. I was so proud of the Tampa fans there, because they booed him.
Yes,
I was so concerned that they were going to cheer. Yes,
yeah.
Man. I was so happy that they were going to cheer out of, respect and just out of happiness that he's actually this version of what we've craved for so long now. And they didn't. They booed him. And there's this one picture. I don't know if you saw it, but I think I retweeted it. There was, it was a shot from really far out when Roman was walking back up the ramp and he had stopped and held up the title. There was a picture of a fan flicking him off, and the picture was taken from behind, so you could see, the middle finger to Roman and the Roman in the far, far distance. But it was just such a good photo, and it was just to me, a classic photo, and that should encapsulate Roman's run up until this point. Everyone hates him, and we should, and we've been wanting to hate him, and now we finally can. It's just you can kind of just breathe a sigh of relief. It's finally, this is what we've wanted. And it's just, I'm happy that everyone actually did it and didn't want to just be those fans to, be different and cheer him or whatever. So, because that built in and played into the match as well, into the anticipation of, is Roman really going to win? And just everything like that. And then, of course, you have Daniel Bryan in there, and Daniel is just, Man, it's scary to think where WWE would be for the past 8 years without Daniel Bryan. Thinking all the way back to the build to WrestleMania 30, and maybe even 8 years if you want to go back to a year prior to that with the whole team held no with him and Kane and just him really breaking out and the Yes Movement starting and everything like that. I think he really helped stabilize WWE when they needed it at that point and for the years to come. And maybe he doesn't get as much credit as he deserves for everything that he's done, but he is such a strong and lovable character. And to think that he can make you love him or hate him, because 2 years ago at WrestleMania 35, he went in as the heel champion and we hated him because he was obnoxious. He was that guy yelling at everyone for using plastic bottles and stuff like that. Granted, that's not like a horrible thing, but just he can take anything and twist it, or just either twist it into like a heel way or just enhance it as a babyface. So originally, I wanted it to be a one-on-one match with Roman and Edge, but having Daniel included, I think, really did add to it. And it's one of those weird and rare moments that I think the triple threat really did benefit the match. And yeah, it was such a cool finish. But at one of the moments in the match where Edge and Roman both went and hit each other, they were trying to hit each other with a spear, but they collided at the same time. I thought that was just so well done, and that just really stood out to me because that could have gone very easily wrong. They could have headbutted each other, it could have looked horrible, but it was just one of those cool little moments to me that psychology made sense because they both, as one of their finishers, obviously is the spear. So it was just a cool little moment, and to see the concerto thrown in there, and then ultimately have Roman throw Edge on top of Daniel Bryan and pin them both, even though I don't think both of his shoulders were technically down, but so he, of course, being the ultimate opportunist or manipulator or whatever, he can probably twist that if they're going in that direction on Friday. So that's a cool little out there. But even with that, I was kind of surprised too because I think we had mentioned as well that or at least I was pretty certain that Daniel was in there to take the pinfall, and he obviously did, but Edge was included in there as well. He wasn't just like out of sight or out of the ring or anything like that. So again, that was a very, very well done match, and I loved everything about it. I think over both nights, the Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks match was my favorite. But this was a strong like 1A or 1B if I had to choose.
The main events for both nights were done. They were selected correctly. Like both nights made us ended the show on a note that it should have felt. I mean, I gotta say this. I credit Vince for not going with the typical gotta make the fans happy, especially at WrestleMania, put a smile on your face as you head home, and instead put Roman Reigns above all else. And it's insane that we're saying this, given all the years that we just wanted to get through Mania and we're just tired of it. That we're saying that we're putting Roman Reigns over a returning Edge that would have been perfect for a 10-year documentary. I said this last night, and that they put it above that. And nobody ever really gave Daniel a chance. I didn't either. I don't think most people did. But to your point, too, I can't remember the last time I said, you know what, a triple threat actually would be better in this case. I'm always normally a one-on-one, no funny business, no triple threats, no fatal four-ways, especially in the main event of WrestleMania. But this one made perfect sense to me. We also, like you said, had that spot with the double spear. I was concerned that they both broke their collarbones. I mean, like you said, there's a very small window of a margin of error, rather, that if you go one way, the other guy goes another way, you're both breaking your clavicles. I mean, it snapped like that, and or separated shoulders. Like, there's so many risks of doing that particular maneuver. They're both going, with all their body weight into the other. So that was cool, but very dangerous. The whole logic about this, though, with Roman keeping him heel, right? I think fans can give him the biggest compliment, and WWE the biggest compliment, by booing him. And the WrestleMania fans, if they're booing him at WrestleMania, he'll get booed anywhere. Yes. Because the WrestleMania fans like to self-identify as the smarter fans, the ones that truly are the WWE foundation, that they give WWE exactly what they feel and not just what WWE wants them to react to like. So if he can pass the test of a WrestleMania crowd, I think he's golden. And I was really, I got to give a round of applause to the Tampa fans, or wherever they came from, probably all over the world, to be in Tampa. to react properly and not be ironic or rebellious or whatever WWE WrestleMania fans do at times. And to keep him heel, guys, we have to give him the biggest compliment of reacting appropriately by booing him. He deserves to be booed, and that's the best thing you can do to keep him heel. It's the biggest compliment you can give, and I hope his heel run goes, another year or more, or maybe 2 years until they turn him back babyface. Whenever they turn him back babyface, he probably will be the biggest babyface in WWE, because then we've had time to boo him. We've had time to hate him. We've seen it. He's finally let us, give it to him. And, he's shown us that other side of him that we all knew was there, but they were hiding. So whenever he turns back, I'll say, I think it's going to be a massive turn. I don't think it's going to be for probably a year, at the very minimum a year, probably hopefully more. But this was a great match, stacking those two on top of each other, dominant fashion, winning the match. It just tells you how much they value Roman Reigns as champion, even over a returning Hall of Fame star like Edge, to be a perfect round number for 10 years, for them to look over that and to push that aside they love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And to push that stuff aside for Roman Reigns really speaks volumes to where they place Roman Reigns right now. Yeah,
and really quick before we move on, it's interesting because another thing with Roman was because of course the comparison to Cena was their moveset, right? Like, Roman isn't really good in the ring, he gets carried a lot, blah blah blah. It's interesting to see, and correct me if I'm wrong, have you really heard much backlash about his in-ring performance since he's become a heel? Because I don't think I've heard any complaints, or if they have, they've been maybe minor or a few out there, but no one's really complaining about, oh, Roman sucks in the ring, he's carried. I think if anything, his heel run has enhanced and really allowed him to just be more free and open and more confident in the ring regarding like his moveset and just the way he connects his moves and things like that. And I think last night, or for WrestleMania, for the main event, I think that really showcased that side of him as well. It was a really solid match, like a good wrestling match. Like, of course they had, they did things outside the ring and stuff like that, but it was just, I think he now deserves credit for carrying matches and being equally involved in matches as well. And I think, like you said, with this heel turn, it's almost, to me, like, in a weird way, parallel to John Cena. Like, he started off as, or John Cena at least started off as like that clean cut baby face with those matching like little booty tights, and then like it always matched his boots and everything like that, like the colors and everything. So, and then he went into that heel rapper, like dissing everyone and just being nasty, which then propelled him to the ultimate babyface. So I think this is the beginning part of that for Roman. And I think a good maybe 2 years from now, 2.5 years of being a solid heel, when he finally turns, I think he has the chance to be the next John Cena, truly the face of the company, where people outside of WWE know the name of Roman Reigns and know his face, and he can really get propelled to that because, like you said, will organically and naturally love him. But they need to take this time, starting now, to build the next heel to replace him, and so he has a good foil to go off of. Because as much as we hate it, seeing John Cena and Randy Orton, however many times we saw it, Randy Orton was a strong enough heel to go against Cena and to have that opponent. And of course, Cena had other heels as well, like JBL and stuff like that, to build him up. But WWE now needs to focus on building other heels, so when Roman gets to that point where he does transition back over to the babyface side, that he has someone strong to go off of, because that's key especially for someone like Roman.
That's it. I mean, and that's a lot of the argument against, at times, John Cena not turning heel. People would say, and you'd hear rumblings, and we'd all know the wrestling news websites that we'd, see is, are they going to turn John Cena heel? And you'd read and you'd see, well, they're not going to do it because, well, who would replace John Cena as a babyface? Like, he can't wrestle himself. So it is a valid point that you have to have somebody, at least in the wings or in progress, to replace that heel that was so well done that you can't have that newly turned babyface work with, a mid-carder. You have to have somebody, like you said, like being prepared, being prepped for that spot it's now vacated. And I believe that wrestling industry, our wrestling company is built off of heels, not baby faces. I think that wrestling heels are the foundation of wrestling. Why? Because baby faces only emerge because of the heels, not the other way around. Yes, it's good versus evil, but when you have this fantasy environment that you can create any stories you want, you can do anything that you want. It ultimately comes down to good versus evil, just like most stories, most movies do boil down to that simplistic of a structure, is good versus evil. So if you have these dastardly, nasty heels that you just would pay money to see somebody kick their ass, then that's what people want to see. They want to see those bad guys get justice. And that's what brings up those people to stand up to those people. Those are the baby faces. So I'm a big heel fan. And I'm a babyface fan too. I mean, Stone Cold is my favorite of all time, but he had great heels to work with. You want to see him beat up those heels. So Roman Reigns right now is one of those rare heels that do not come along every 5 years, sometimes even every 10 years. Roman Reigns right now is on a run that I think we're going to look back and go, damn, one of the best heels ever, I think, as long as they don't cut it short. And WWE right now has a real big problem of a trigger finger of cutting really good things short, and particularly factions, so hopefully it just is limited to that. Not that that's okay, but I'm concerned that they'll look at this and go, maybe we should turn him. Maybe, somebody's going to bring it up in a production meeting, and I want to chloroform that person. I mean, stop. I do not need Roman Reigns turning babyface. There's no good reason for it right now. So leave it alone. Not that anyone's talking about it right now, but I don't want to put ideas in people's heads. Roman Reigns is a very, very rare heel right now. He's very special. There's something very special going on right now with Roman Reigns. Yeah,
and it's fun to have both of our champions as heels on both shows. So
yeah,
it's the first time we've had that in a while. Strong champion, heel champion. So it's just fun.
It really is.
And enjoy it while we can, right?
I know, because just when you think something's getting traction, guess what they do? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I know. So, all right. Well, anything else on WrestleMania that you want to touch on? I know, of course, there's Tamina and Shayna Baszler and the Nia Jax deal. And,
I'm saving that for my Raw because I'm just so over the women's tag team championship debacle. So yeah, that's why I omitted that part. But no, I'm pretty good for WrestleMania in and of itself, unless there's anything else glaring that I missed.
Braun Strowman, Shane McMahon, but you said you didn't really care. So and AJ Styles and Omos winning,
that I was not impressed with that at all. I think it's a waste of AJ Styles. I truly do. I think it's fun to see a playful side of AJ, but I want to see the phenomenal one. I want to see AJ doing what he does best, and I feel like we still have a few prime years left of AJ, maybe a couple. So it's just, I don't know. It's just frustrating. I'm not a fan of AJ in a tag match, but we'll see. The whole point is for Omos to get over, I guess. So it is what it is.
Yeah, that's.
I'm sorry, but it's just I'm over the New Day too. Like I'm just over the same stuff. So it was kind of, to me, I didn't enjoy it because it was just the same old, and it was so obvious what they were doing going into it.
Yeah, it was, and but like you said, AJ Styles has a lot more days behind him than in front of him, and I'm glad that he's at least a champion, but I don't think he's the right. He doesn't have the right belt on him. I think it's better than what he was doing before. I mean, at least he's a champion that gets airtime, and Omos and him are at least they have some chemistry. Sometimes they're actually kind of really funny.
And it's not horrible, but it's just like
I know.
I don't know. You broke up the Hurt Business to give it to the New Day to do this. It's just one of those things. I guess that the events leading up to it put a sour taste in my mouth for more than the actual match did. I guess, to be fair.
No, I hear you. Definitely. So, if there's no other WrestleMania, though, then, dive yourself into Monday Night Raw. I think you know what you're going to start with.
Yeah, man. When I tell you, and I'm going to try very hard to keep it PG, so you don't have to make any timestamps.
Please.
Yeah. You had a long week.
Go ahead.
And I hate to start off with something negative, but Oh my gosh, the whole fiasco with Shayna Baszler, Nia Jax, and Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke, I wanted to throw my TV. I have never been so just flabbergasted by a match, and it's saying a lot because I've been watching wrestling for quite some time now, and especially on Raw, there's been pretty obnoxious things. First of all, they ruined Shayna Baszler, and that hurts my heart. It's so unfortunate. It's so sad, especially with the lack of Ronda Rousey. Like when Ronda went out, that would have been the ample time to move Shayna, not necessarily into her spot because no one, it's Ronda Rousey, of course, like come on, but to be that bad MF, boxer in that strong female role that needed to be filled and believable and credibility. So that I guess I shouldn't be surprised, but I get in a way I am because it's like, come on, like you had gold sitting right there. All you needed to do was just say, here you go, fans, this is Shayna Baszler, and just have her go on a rampage. So it's frustrating to see. And one moment that first stuck out in the match was when Dana Brooke was trying to go tag in Mandy Rose. Shayna gets tagged by Nia. She comes in and runs right in front of Dana Brooke to block her off of Mandy, picks her up, and then Dana still ends up tagging in Mandy, and Shayna acts like she has no idea and gets hit by Mandy. I'm like, WTF? Like, are you really? Like, Shayna would not just run and grab Dana Brooke and just pummel her, put her in Coquina lock or anything, but she runs in front of her and just picks her up, and then she doesn't know that she made the tag. Like, it's making Shayna look foolish, and it's so frustrating to me because Shayna is just thinking back to her NXT days and seeing where she's at now. It's like a slap in the face, and it takes me back to what I said earlier of sometimes feeling foolish of getting invested into certain characters and storylines because it's like, man, like the second they move over to Raw or SmackDown, they're gonna get ruined, and it's frustrating for me. But the finish of the match itself was absurd. Utterly absurd. Poor Mandy, right? She slipped coming down the ramp at WrestleMania. Like, crap happens. It is what it is. Like, it's no big deal. Like, I didn't even think it was that funny. Like, she slipped. It was pouring raining. Like, it's not surprising. Like, it is what it is. Like, it was nowhere near as funny as the Titus O'Neil, like, slide under the ring.
I will that anytime you're feeling sad, guys, go watch that. It is still the funniest thing.
And hearing Corey Graves just die laughing, it just made it so much better because it was natural. It was natural. So things happen, okay? And to see them go back, and then, of course, Nia Jax, like, they can't just let it go. Like, they have to bring it up. And then to see Nia's, the second I saw her slip on that apron, I said, you have got to be effing kidding me right now. It did not look natural. It was so planned, and it's so frustrating because it goes back into what I was saying earlier about a strong heel character. It's a joke. It's a joke. She slips on the apron, and then Mandy kind of laughs, and then she's terrified that Nia Jax is mad at her now. So instead of finishing the match and possibly getting an opportunity, keyword, to have another tag team title match, which, by the way, you just went through a whole turmoil to get to the opportunity to face these champions for. But instead of taking advantage of her slipping and maybe being so worked up that she embarrassed herself and trying to take advantage of that situation, you're scared, as a babyface, mind you, you're scared and you run out of the ring and take a count-out loss? Like, are you serious? And Dana Brooke is just sitting there saying, it's not worth it, it's not worth it. And even Byron Saxton's like, yeah, she's right, maybe that was more important than actually winning the match because Nia Jax embarrassed herself or something to that effect. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, at least Corey Graves said something like, how is that better, or something to that effect. But I'm just like, this is a joke. This is an absolute joke. And it infuriates me because who's involved. Shayna more so than any of the others, but it's just one of those things where I watched that whole segment and I feel stupid for getting invested in it. So I'm sorry for my little rant, but when I saw that, I wanted to throw my TV. And I couldn't remember the last time I saw that. And not because I was so invested in Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke winning the match or anything like that, but just for the sheer fact that it was stupid and it's non-believable. And how am I supposed to get behind Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke as babyface challengers when they run? Like, okay, you don't want to face them, so why should you be a contender for the tag title? So at this point, it's like, why even have women's tag team championships to begin with? So it's just stupid, man.
So you're saying it's brawn stupid, I guess. I mean, this is. I'll say this. The Hulu version did not have that match on it, and I watched the Hulu version, which cuts
Really?
out a lot of some of the stuff. And I read about it. I read about what else the results are, so I can do my Raw review. But I did not see this in real time, and now I'm scared if I go back that I won't be able to sleep and I'll have to rant on my show. So I read about it, and you're filling in a lot of detail that the highlights that I read did not. So now I'm like angry. That's.
It's just so infuriating, man, because it's it's just WWE, and that it just screams WWE, and it screams Vince, and I'm normally not that person where it's like, oh, Vince is horrible, Vince does this, but it's just one of those things where it's like, really, like, what are we even doing here? What are we doing? Why am I invested in this? Why do I care if they get another title shot, or why do I care who Nia and Shayna end up facing next? It's just, I don't know, man.
Well, Nia and Shayna
try not to say certain things.
No, I hear you, and I appreciate the self-censoring. But Nia and Shayna need to just break up, period. End of subject, move on. And I'm sure this will be the best thing for Shayna and probably the worst thing for Nia. So Nia's probably trying to hang on to this connection because after they break up, she'll probably just be... I mean, she's not going to be, off air, but I think it's better for Shayna because we all know what Shayna's capable of. I don't think that she is making the best of her time in this tag team. Yes, they did actually create eyeballs on the women's tag team championships. They did create, I think they did add value to it. I did. I think that mission was accomplished.
Absolutely.
And I mean, they feel more important than ever, and great. That's awesome. But now it's time to move on because Shayna Baszler is too valuable to be buried in this tag team that is being, like you said, all these embarrassing things that are happening on Monday Night Raw, with just Shayna being not Shayna Baszler. I want Shayna Baszler snapping people's arms. That's the Shayna Baszler I want. The Shayna Baszler that last year at the Elimination Chamber.
At least she's gonna be vicious. Like,
yeah,
golly.
Because we know what she is.
Something. Yeah.
We know we know what we're seeing is wrong. And Shayna Baszler at the Elimination Chamber 2 years ago. I mean, that is the Shayna Baszler just tearing through, staring down those girls in the pods and just taking them out one by one, dominating, clearing house, tapping out every woman in that match. That's the Shayna Baszler we want and deserve because it's like mission accomplished, guys. Let's go home, and they're still hanging on. They're still hanging on to this team. I don't know why, and I think it's hurting Shayna Baszler more than anybody because, like you said, now they're starting to do a little bit of permanent damage to her, and it's going to take a while to shake that. Yeah, right. So damn.
Yeah, and really quick, just to wrap that up, another reason why I didn't mention it for when we were talking about Mania is because that would have been the prime opportunity, in my opinion, to put the belts on Tamina and Natalya.
Yes.
Like. I was so happy for Tamina when they were chanting her name, like, and they did it a couple times, like, that would have been prime opportunity to put it on them, even if it's not going to be for long. You could even switched it back this week, but just something fresh and just something new, and like you said, just finally break them up, and if, as much as I am a hypocrite for what I'm about to say, I wanted Shayna and Nia to lose to Natalya and Tamina, as crazy as it sounds, or as crazy as that sounds, and then do a trade. Trade Sasha Banks to Raw, Shayna Baszler to SmackDown. You have Shayna go right after Bianca, you can have her refresh, come in as a monster, and then you have the added star power from Sasha coming in, and Sasha can do anything. So it's just, I don't know, and I guess it maybe, like I said earlier, they don't need her because Charlotte's back, which we'll hit on, but Shayna they're doing her dirty, and it's so sad.
They are. I mean, I just... This whole thing, I mean, is it's been overplayed, overdone for a while. I expected them to break up at WrestleMania and drop the belts to the Riot Squad. I think the Riot Squad are also deserving of because they're an actual tag team. Like, they've been a tag team before the women's tag team division existed.
Yeah.
So, like, they, I think, are more deserving than most. But also, like you said, Tamina and Natalya, I found myself rooting for Natalya for the first time in my life. And the fans felt the same way because you come to these moments as a fan where you're like, you know what? They've been around for so long, and they've been maybe misbooked or you felt mistreated, and they haven't got a fair shake. And you start to organically feel sympathetic for them and maybe trying to will that individual into a spot that WWE otherwise wouldn't put them in if you didn't cheer for them. And it was emotional I'm sure Tamina had the best weekend of her wrestling career, or maybe even like ever. I mean, I'm sure the chants for Tamina were, I felt really, I was so happy for her when I heard that. And I'm like, great job, Tampa, because she deserves that, for all the years that we all looked at her as kind of like, just, she's got this, and she's intimidating, but they're not going to really do anything with her. She's the first person out in a match. Like, that's just the way that she's been booked, is just, what you expect with Tamina. And now they've, I think, found a really nice tag team with her and Natalya. This is a tag team. I'm liking this way more than I thought with these two together.
Such cool history with their lineage, too, that they can play off of.
Yes. So, it's great. So I think they'll eventually be tag team champions. Same with the Riot Squad. I mean, anybody but Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax at this point, they've had their run. Let's move on. Like, we've got it. So, God. All right. Let's move on.
Yeah,
do you want to talk about Charlotte, or do you want to?
Yeah. No. I 100%. And first of all, for as great as Twitter is and can be, it can equally be, as I'm sure you know, as negative, and probably more so negative, because it's so disgusting how nasty people are to Charlotte online about her appearance, especially. It's so disgusting. It has nothing to do with anything, and it's just so, like, those people, like, they deserve a smack in the face. And I hate to say it, but, like, it's so disrespectful. And who are you to speak on a female's appearance? It's like, you have no idea what's going on. Especially if you're a male, like, there's no right for you to judge anyone, obviously, but it's just so despicable what people think that they can get away with online. And I don't know, I just, when I see some of that, I just feel so bad for them, because I know I only see like maybe a handful, and I can't imagine the hundreds and thousands that they probably get.
That we don't see.
Yeah, it's so sad. So seeing her come out and just finally, in a way, take a stand and just say, in a polite, not necessarily polite, but in so many words, like an F you to the fans for being so negative on her and for calling her out. And I think to me, that was the standout promo of her career. I don't know if they just gave her bullet points. I don't know if it was scripted, and I love it. I'm so happy that I don't know if that was a real thing or if it was worked or whatever. I was so impressed. I was like, when she started talking, when she came out, I was like, okay, here we go. But when she started talking, I was intrigued and I was captivated. I was like, yes, like this is, in a way, it's what she's been saying for, 5, 6, 7 years now, but in a way, it was completely new. And it was just the words she was saying about how she is the opportunity and she's not taking opportunities away from anyone else. When they get in the ring with her, that is the opportunity. Say what you want, but that's the truth. It is what it is. She is the star of the division. She is the measuring stick. She is a Flair, but you can say what you want, but she has held her own and she has carried that division and she has propelled it. If you think back to her matches with Sasha Banks and the Hell in a Cell matches and everything that they did back then, like she deserves it. And just the negativity she gets, it's yes, like she, of course she has been in certain situations, like for instance with Asuka, when she beat Asuka on that SmackDown to become the champion right before WrestleMania 35, stuff like that. Yeah, that's.
But I have more heat on management for that than Charlotte, because she's not the one making it. Yeah. So.
Exactly. It's not like she's the one saying, "Oh, I have to be Asuka. I want this, and this." Like she's just in that spot. So to see her just come out on Monday and be like, "You know what? Screw you guys. I am the opportunity. I am the star, and I'm the measuring stick, essentially." So I'm happy we're finally getting a solid direction with her. She is embracing this queen role, and we didn't get a woo. There was no phoniness about it. There was no ending with the woo or nothing like that. She said what she had to say. She was serious about it. She emphatic about it, if nothing else, and dropped the mic and left. And she just looked so much like a star. I was just, and the little thing too, with the different cameras that she was looking at. Of course, she was looking at the hard cam, as they all do, standing in the middle. But at times during her promo, she was looking to the one on her side, and I was like, when she would look to the side, that grabbed me. It's like she was talking directly to me. Like, it was like, "Ooh, okay, girl, I feel you." So that was the moment of the night for me.
This is a promo again. I don't expect this every week from Charlotte, because this is one that I feel like was bulleted for her. I don't feel like she was reading from a script. Maybe at times she had things that, sentences or two that she had written down or they had written down for her. But this to me was a from the guts type of promo that they based a lot in reality. She did. And to your point though about people judging her and how she looks and everything like that, and I've seen some of the negativity. That shows you again how toxic that obviously social media can be, and we all know that. But it's cowardice hiding behind an anonymity of your phone or whatever you're using. It's cowardice is when people do that kind of stuff. That's just the way it is with whether it's a celebrity or whether it's not. Honestly, I mean, I gotta say this. I said this on the show last night. Look, I'm married, but as a straight male, like when I saw Charlotte was it last night, 2 nights ago, whatever it was now, I was like, okay, you have my attention. I mean, she was wearing that outfit. I'm like, damn, like, I mean, she certainly, showed off her legs, and she's in excellent shape. I mean,
I thought it was the best she's ever looked.
Oh my, it was, yeah. I mean, the outfit complimented her, but at the same time, you could see that she was like, you could see there wasn't much left in the imagination. Like, you saw that she had put in the work, and props to her. So, I mean, I don't understand the judgment on her appearance. I mean, look, she's had work done to her body. Who cares? What, I mean, like, how many celebrities, how many wrestlers, tell me, even 3 wrestlers, 3 women's performers into the WWE roster that have not had work done, even if they haven't, like, who cares? I mean, like, that's number one. That's their business. I mean, like, they do it because their appearance is really important to their damn job. I mean, number one. And if they just want to do it just to do it, then I mean, like, people just sometimes feel a sense of entitlement that they need to weigh in on how other people look or whatever. I mean, it's whatever. I mean, that's a very slippery slope into other topics of politics and everything else. But Charlotte, as far as people, complaining that she's in too many storylines, that she's constantly in the championship picture, and she addressed that. I think, and I've been on that boat sometimes too, where it felt like Charlotte burned out.
Me too, yeah.
I was burned out from seeing Charlotte everywhere, in every situation, in every championship opportunity. It became too much, and so her getting injured for 6 months and coming back probably was the best thing that ever happened. Especially no fans there. It's during the pandemic era. Like, who cares, But that really, for me, was good timing for her to go out and, obviously rehab, surgery, and then, have a refreshed character coming back in. And I was cool with her coming back. When she got immediately put back with Asuka, I was like, what the hell is this? And she called out that storyline. She said, that wasn't in my control. And she's saying, my father coming back acting like a fool, that was not in my control. Sort of saying, hey guys, these are the storylines that were presented to me. That's not my choice. That's what she was saying. That's without actually saying it. That's as close as to saying, hey, these are storylines that I didn't choose, as she could do. And I think that this promo was career defining. She just felt different. She said, she said she knows her worth, that she is the opportunity. All of this is true, and I love it. And she's just giving a middle finger to everybody, as she should. She's a much better heel. The only thing I picked out that I would critique, and I pointed this out, but I wanted your opinion on it, when she said no more humble little Charlotte Flair. I'm thinking to myself, you've called yourself the Queen, and you've been telling people to bow down to you since you came up with the Queen gimmick how many years ago. That's not exactly humble. I mean, so I'm just nitpicking here. I got her point, but I'm like, no, actually your character's been the exact opposite of that, but sure, so, but her as a heel she was born to be a heel. She's one of those people that she's not like a very well-balanced babyface or heel. She doesn't transition very well. She is just keep her heel. She never feels right as a babyface ever, almost. So her as a heel, it's great. I feel like she's gonna just take over the women's division right now, and rightfully so. I'm so happy. So. Yeah,
no, I agree, and I did. That was the one part that I was like, wouldn't have you really been humble? Behind the scenes, of course, probably, but like you, Charlotte, like you said, the Queen, like on TV, like even as a babyface, she's never been humble. Even as a babyface, like the referee would, for instance, open the ropes for her. Like there's nothing humble about her. So that one was kind of like, I get what you're saying, but like not the right word choice. But like again, that kind of made me feel like, it stuck out. But I was like, okay, like it probably wasn't written for her, So that was just kind of played into that realism. So, but no, I totally see what you're saying.
Right, and she even called out the women in the back for saying that, oh, Charlotte's not going to be on WrestleMania. This is going to be my time now, and saying how happy they were that she wasn't on WrestleMania, which is probably true. I'm sure that there were some women, not all, but I'm sure there were some women in the back that were like, good, it's about time we have a WrestleMania that doesn't have a main event with Charlotte Flair in it. There were comments made like that, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
So this was based in a lot of truth, and the best promos are, and she killed it on Monday night, attacking, of course, on the back end. She attacks Asuka and Rhea Ripley, which is great. I'm sure they'll have a triple threat at I hate saying, I'll just say Backlash. I can't get myself to say because it's just so ridiculous. They're just squeezing every drop out of WrestleMania that they can, just WrestleMania SmackDown and whatever. But she'll be in that triple threat at Backlash, and I probably think has a chance of winning. I mean, because I don't know, it's just a thought that maybe she could win. And I know Rhea Ripley just won it, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, if they're going to keep Rhea as a babyface, I think that would be logical to have, especially with how strong Charlotte came off this past Monday. I think that it would be smart of them, as much as, like we were just saying, it's Charlotte being a champion. I'm just kind of, in a way, I feel like I kind of contradict myself when it comes to Charlotte, but this version of her, kind of like Roman Reigns, like if they stick with it, like it has the possibility of being something really special. So I could totally see, like you said, them having a triple threat, Charlotte winning, having Rhea as the babyface champion or the babyface challenger chasing after her, and then having Asuka take some time off, do whatever, just be away for a while, and then come back in a couple months, and then just kind of go from there. So I hope that's the route that they go with this.
Yeah, Asuka needs time off. I think even that's weird to say, considering that they basically hid her for 6 months as Raw Women's Champion. But fans are starting to remember that. Like, fans are like, yeah, where the hell's she been the last 6 months? So I think she'll probably take the pinfall or submission in this assumed, again, it's not official, of course, but this assumed triple threat for Backlash, that she'll probably be there to take the fall. It'll protect Rhea Ripley, saying she never lost it, she wasn't involved in the decision, the same old logic, which is fine, and having Charlotte be the heel champion and carry it for 6 to 12 months. I always want a 6 to 12 month run out of a heel champion of this magnitude. And again, having Asuka kind of take some time and I don't know, whatever that means, kind of rejiggering her gimmick, which I feel needs a shakeup. I feel like Asuka needs to be just taken and shook. Like, can we just, like, I don't know. She's awesome in the ring. We know that. But she's been just basically the same for years. I mean, she learns an extra English word here or there, but she relies, too much on screaming in Japanese and being cartoonish. And at times it's endearing, at times it's exhausting. She plays heel, babyface, heel. You're not sure what to do, but she's obnoxious, yet they're casting her as a babyface. I just don't know what to feel for Asuka right now. As great as she is, I just feel like she needs time. Maybe time would help.
Yeah, definitely agree.
All right, well, what else happened on Monday Night Raw? We had Drew McIntyre win the triple threat. Or, I'm sorry, it was a triple threat with Randy Orton and Braun Strowman. He beats Randy Orton, ends up drop-kicking him in the head, gets the pin. And then we get, Retribution, Slapjack, and Mace come out and attack Drew McIntyre, chokeslam him basically. And MVP stands there on the ramp as he looks on, just very satisfied with what he's watching. What do you make of this? I mean, Hurt Business broke up, and now he brings on two other guys.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. Like, why? First of all, why? Like, you literally just broke up the Hurt Business because Bobby Lashley doesn't need anybody, blah, blah, blah. They're weighing him down. But ever since then, he's had everyone else fighting for him. Baron Corbin came out of nowhere. He was looking for someone to take out Drew. Now he has whatever's left of Retribution. So it's like... And then, of all the people you choose, you choose, these two guys. It's just one of those things. I'm just not a fan, to say the least.
And again, I always am willing to give storylines a chance. I like to be a patient fan. I don't like to judge up front. But look, I mean, I've seen these two for long enough, and I've seen the storyline long enough with Retribution to know that they are beyond damaged goods. I mean, their shelf life expired, 8 months ago with Retribution, and I think their best night was their first night when they just took chainsaws and cut the ropes. And I said, I think this is shock and awe with no real substance, and it kind of turned out to be. And so yeah, but. All right. Was there anything else on Raw? It wasn't exactly a Raw after WrestleMania feel. Like, fans not being there certainly didn't help. I mean, we had Bray Wyatt rambling in his funhouse that made no sense at all. It was I don't know where Bray Wyatt's at right now. We had
neither does Randy Orton.
Yeah,
they're damaged too.
Yeah, Randy Orton now is. I would think Braun Strowman and Randy probably go into a program. Maybe.
Well, yeah, I guess. Yeah, but what's the story there? Like, I don't. And Strowman is just another one of those. It's like he could have been something coming. Like he could have been really like a strong heel years ago. Had they protected him and kept him strong, and just he was the first victim, I feel, or maybe one of the first victims of the Roman Reigns babyface push, because they just destroyed Braun when it came to Roman, and then of course he ended up losing to Lesnar and all that stuff. But it's just another one of those things. Like I don't dislike Strowman, but I'm just not invested in him.
It's weird, right?
Yeah, and it's a shame.
And I think Strowman does have value. He certainly has got the look Vince likes.
Yeah.
He's
a phenomenal shape. Like,
oh my
ridiculous.
God. For his size.
Yeah.
When you look at when he first debuted in the Wyatt family to now.
Oh, night and day.
He's probably lost a good 70 pounds. I'm like, it's insane. So kudos to him for, busting his ass and dropping the weight. That's cool. But Braun Strowman is just so one-dimensional to me. He's just, consistently angry about everything. He's always trying to, talk like a scary monster. I don't have a whole lot of depth to him, and he's good in the ring. He's more than good in the ring for his size anyway. I think he exceeds what you'd expect from somebody his size. But I don't have a feeling towards him. I don't know. It's so just superficial with him. Yeah, but at the same time, he's a big asset to Raw. It's the strangest thing what I feel for him, which is it's very conflicting. But again, my final point though, I'll say that with the Hurt Business breaking up, and then I was thinking, they got to have some grand plan, and yet they're facing the Viking Raiders this past Monday night on
Didn't
Raw.
get an entrance, nothing.
Yeah, no,
just standing there.
They just
it's
completely. Put Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin on the curb. I mean, they have a free sign next to them, and stuck them on the curb with your trash cans, and it's like, what?
For no reason, in my opinion, no reason.
This is the kind of crap I don't get. I don't understand this. But anything else that you want to discuss beyond Raw or SmackDown, Raw, SmackDown, or we haven't seen SmackDown or WrestleMania?
No, like you said, it definitely was not that Raw after Mania feel. Even I mean, of course it wasn't going to be the typical, but even just being back in the Thunderdome, it wasn't being in the Thunderdome, like the lack of fans. It was just the show itself. Like it just didn't feel. It felt like we went right back to regular Raw, just right back to the same old, same old. So Raw is, like you said earlier with, I believe, Asuka. I just want to shake Monday Night Raw and shake Vince. It's like, just come on, like just wake up, like just do something different. It's just, I feel like it's the same old, same old. But on the bright side, I am so excited for SmackDown. I can't wait to see what Roman's gonna say. I can't wait to see Bianca's first actual promo since becoming champion, and to see what they do with Sasha. Oh, and I did want to mention really quick, just for the record again, I think it's a sin that they didn't have anything substantial for Bayley on WrestleMania. I'm happy they still squeezed her in, and she did her, a few little appearances here and there. And I'm happy that the Tampa fans actually chanted for her when she was out there. I hope that was a big, what to Vince, that she should be on the show and she's over, especially for what she's done this past year.
I think SmackDown's going to be a bigger show. Like you said, I'm more excited for SmackDown than Raw, which is almost impossible to say on a WrestleMania week. But with how good those matches were, I mean, if you were looking at this from a brand versus brand perspective, SmackDown beat Raw
SmackDown all day
for sure at WrestleMania. I mean, with the two main events they had, it was just bust ass. And overall, again, I think WrestleMania, I'd give it a B plus. I mean, if I'm in a good mood, sometimes an A minus. Especially given the circumstances of not a full arena. Especially given the circumstances of no real star power. I mean, yeah, Edge is there. He's the only holdover. But they didn't have any of those massive returns. There was no massive return of Becky Lynch to lean on. No Ronda Rousey. No random appearance from The Undertaker or Rock or Austin. Hogan, I don't count Hogan because we've seen way too much of him.
Yeah, he doesn't count.
No, not at all, for several reasons. But there was nothing that there wasn't that big return moment that we're so used to seeing that fans are always asking for or speculating of so and so could make a massive return. We didn't get any of that. It was just straight up matches. No Brock Lesnar.
And to their credit, it was a good show. I still enjoyed it, and I think now for nothing that this, I hope, was maybe a little bit of a wake-up call that they don't need to rely on all the stars. They just need to focus more on story going forward. And they have quality stars there, and they have what could be main event stars, like, and big star name, star power appeal, but you just got to focus on the right guys and actually allow your talent to rise and just have stories. Who knew stories would actually get characters over?
Exactly. Well, not only that, but there were a lot of bad builds for WrestleMania, which is why I went into WrestleMania kind of not expecting a lot. And I think that it showed WWE and the fans that even if a build is really crappy and creative doesn't do their job, that the wrestlers can erase some or a lot of that garbage during the match to make you care about what the story is in the ring. I mean, that's where they get to write their own story, even if the build to it was garbage. So there is that too, and I think we saw some of that at WrestleMania. So like I said, I'm super excited for SmackDown to see where they go with every angle going forward. I'm not dreading anything, nope.
And I'm sure SmackDown's gonna fly by. Whereas Raw, I'm expecting the same old. So
I know.
We'll see.
I know, but Ashley, it's been awesome as always. And before you go, is there anything you'd like to share social media wise?
Just feel free to give me a follow on Twitter at ASHMANNS. But yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you were able to come on. I really was interested in your opinions for WrestleMania because this is the biggest show of the year, and we were texting, and I'm like, I just hold your thoughts. Let's wait till we talk. And I'm glad I did. It's been fun, and we have, I'll just say it once, everybody get ready. WrestleMania Backlash is in 4.5 weeks, so we'll definitely have you on before then to see where WWE's going.
Yeah, definitely. No, thank you so much for having me. And I like I said, I'm sure you're so drained of WrestleMania, so thanks for capping it off with me. I appreciate you squeezing me in there.
No, I could talk about it for a whole nother show. No, it's WrestleMania, and again, you provide a different perspective, so it's absolutely been a blast. So, Ashley, enjoy it, and have a good night.
Thanks, Matt. You too.
All right, you too.